Hello and welcome to the Missed Q. I'm your host, Ricky, and with me is
Jackie
and
Heidi.
And together we are the Missed Q. Now, we've been performing Anastasia with Grace Arts Live. It's opening weekend, and we have Jordan Killion with us, who's playing Dimitri.
That's right. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah,
Welcome.
welcome. Welcome to the show. So this is your third time at Grace Arts Live.
It is. Yeah.
Excellent. So you're a guest performer that comes and graces us with your talent. And,
I see what you did there.
Yeah, you like that?
Graces.
You like,
Very
you like
nice.
that?
Talent.
Yeah.
So what was your first show with Grace Arts?
So 4.5 years ago, I was asked to do Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I had just done it the year before, and a friend of mine who I'd worked with in Southern California had previously worked here at Grace Arts Live. What was that?
That was my ice maker.
Turn it
I
off.
just saw the reaction. So anyways, he wasn't able to do it. She'd reached out to him to play Joseph, and he recommended me, having known that I had just played the role. So it just worked out that way.
Nice.
And it was like one of the last shows I did right before everything shut down.
Oh,
too.
yeah, right
Yeah.
before COVID.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. So that was your first experience with Grace Arts Live. So tell us a little bit about yourself, about your history with performing, and kind of what led you to find this passion.
Sure. So a little bit about myself. I was born in Big Spring, Texas. My parents are musicians. My dad was the music minister at a church, and my mom taught voice and piano. And as soon as they had me, they moved my sister and I to Oklahoma, where we were raised. So I was raised in a very musical household. Even the extended family, everybody on both sides are all musicians to some extent. So family get-togethers are always, singing around the piano, playing different instruments, singing 4-part harmony.
So that like Norman Rockwell
amazing.
type of...
It's stuff that I thought
Right.
was normal growing up that
Right.
most American or just
You see
anybody
that
around
in
the world.
movies, people
families.
gathering around singing Christmas carols.
Yeah, that
right?
was mine. So
You're like, no one else does this.
yeah,
This is just
I had no
us.
idea.
Normal?
And at this along that same note, things that I thought was normal growing up, like my mom, she'd pick me up from school on horseback too. We were horse people
Oh,
too.
sure.
So
Small community.
so, yeah, like Halloween just happened, and like on that note, one of my favorite costumes I ever did was the headless horseman, and I'd rode my horse to school.
Oh my God.
and
That's
I just thought I was the
amazing.
coolest person,
I think you're the coolest person. That would be awesome.
So I was like, I felt good about myself, making all my friends jealous that I had a
that's
horse. But
So you grew up around that just music.
yeah, music and horses. That was like what my family did. So in school, I didn't even do theater really. So I took like a couple of theater classes, but I was more focused on music. So I always say I was a band nerd, a choir geek, and an orc dork. So. Yeah, orchestra for those
Yeah.
who don't
Oh,
understand
yes.
it.
I went Lord of the Rings for a second. I'm like,
I'm not that kind of orc.
Oh,
Ricky got all excited.
So when all my friends were playing like a different video game every week, I was picking up, I don't know,
A different instrument.
a different instrument. Yeah.
Right.
So,
of course.
that's and that's something I still
okay,
do to
so,
this day.
so you
still
have
play.
a lot. There was a lot of musicality there in your family. But
Yeah.
what was the first time you had an audition, or what was your first introduction to theater?
Yeah, sure. So fast forward, I finished high school and decided to go to the University of Oklahoma, where my dad was getting his doctorate in vocal performance. He talked me into studying with the same voice teacher and pursuing that as my major. And but like the first 2 years, I kind of resisted it because I had this, it might surprise you, but I had a little bit of an ego as a kid.
No.
But people that have egos are the ones that are like, okay, they need to be validated.
Yeah.
So there's always
Right.
something underneath it, right? Because I was I was the youngest in my family, so I was kind of in their shadow all my life. Didn't really feel like that was my identity. It was just I was associated with that because everybody told me my whole life, oh, you're a Killian.
You were the youngest.
Yes, I had an older sister. So I kind of resisted it for a long time, but it just eventually was in my genes, But so like the first 2 years, when you're told your whole life that, oh, you're really good, you're a Killian and stuff, it's like, oh, I don't need anybody to like help me,
Right.
like freaking arrogant, and But then like I finally gave in and started to listen really. And my voice teacher, he's like a world-class baritone. He's sung for the Metropolitan Opera in New York and all over the world, playing all these major opera roles. And I had no idea. Like it was just Kim to me, my teacher,
another lesson.
But so I finally, he talked some sense into me to just like give him a chance, and my whole world opened up once I started actually applying what he was trying to teach me, and not resisting. And I had no idea. I was like, oh, this is singing. I feel like I had the natural talent because, my parents were singers, the genetics were there and all that. And I'd done it my whole life. But, you learn
technicality.
Stuff that, you get into bad habits and stuff. And
I'm full of bad habits. Yeah.
So anyways, I finally gave in and started seeing the results. And then my junior year of college, he was really trying to get me to perform more. I was more focused on music education because I was like, dude, like I just didn't think I was good enough. So talking about that ego again, right? I don't need your help, but then I'm like,
it's overcompensation that people mistake for a big ego.
I don't think I'm good enough to pursue this as a career, And I remember he had on his shelf in his office the word believe, and he'd always point that at, he got to the center of me like a few times saying like, he could see through. Like the facade I was putting on,
Right.
I always remember that him pointing to the word believe, and it's like, okay, like he really does believe and he sees something in me. So I trusted him, and they were having auditions at the University of Oklahoma for the national anthem at one of the football games for the season. And there's like 18,000 people that go to that school. Maybe I could be wrong. It's somewhere in that like number, but so anybody can audition, and you have like the undergrads, the masters and doctoral students that are auditioning too, and they're only picking 3 people, and it's a blind audition, so you're singing behind a panel. They don't look at you.
I love that.
It's kind of like The Voice, because sometimes I think people base audition on like charisma and like the looks,
For
so
sure.
I'd be screwed. I rely on my charm.
I almost didn't do it, but he almost made me go audition, and I was shocked that when they called me and told me they chose me as one.
So it's like being on The Voice, but
kind of, yeah. But that was so validating because that's all they had to base it on was
off
just
your
my
talent,
Just
singing.
the vocal.
that's really cool.
And I, there were master's students, doctoral students who'd been singing longer and had way more technique than I did. But for them to hear that was like made me think, maybe I should consider this, And that was one of the biggest rushes of my life, and I've never sung for that many people since.
Wow.
It was like 85,000 people in the stadium. It was an OU Colorado game.
That's
the marching
amazing.
band is accompanying me behind me on the field. It was as epic as you could think. I mean, talk about American, So anyways, that was the biggest rush of my entire life, probably.
I mean, where do you go from there?
Yeah,
Right?
I know, right? I guess the Super Bowl, and actually get paid for it.
Sure.
But no, but still, that definitely made me think, okay, I need to consider this. And but then in the spring, they were having auditions for they were doing this School of Fine Arts collaboration of all the departments in the fine arts. So you have like the orchestra, the choirs, the musical theater, the vocal department, ballet. And they were going to do this production of the music of Andrew Lloyd Webber, and the director was coming from London. I'd worked with Andrew Lloyd Webber and stuff, and so it's a pretty cool opportunity. But I was like, they're going to cast the musical theater kids; those are the ones that go, onto Broadway. So still, I hadn't done theater yet, because your original question is like, how'd you get into theater?
Yeah.
There's a backstory. So
Okay.
So, anyways, I wasn't going to do this because I was like, they're going to cast the theater kids. This isn't really up, my alley. I've never acted before, and I've been singing classical music, even though I really wanted to. I grew up on like the old musicals and stuff, and I always wanted to do it, but in my town, it just wasn't a thriving scene to do theater. I mean, we had a community theater, but it just wasn't something that I don't know, it just never really caught my attention. So again, I was trying to back out of it. I was like, every excuse in the book to avoid auditioning, because I didn't want to be told no.
Right.
Nobody wants that. And I didn't want to set myself up and get my hopes up. But he talked me into doing it. And sure enough, not only did I get cast as one of the main soloists, but I got to sing the 2 songs that I really wanted, and I thought were like 2 of Angela Weber's like best songs he's ever written. It was "Close Every Door" from Joseph,
Oh, yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
and "All I Ask of You" from Phantom of the Opera. So these are 2 songs I'd been singing for a long time, and I just was like, man, this my voice really fits with these songs. Like I can hear it, but I'm telling myself that I'd never been told by somebody else like, we want you to sing this, So that right there, I mean, and there was a lot of other great songs too. And I remember saying like, to the Dean of Fine Arts is like, oh, like, I think I cast for the best songs. And he kind of humbled me. He's like, those are the best songs for you, like don't take away, other people. Cause like the other songs are great and they're going to sing those songs great too. But so that stood out in my memory. Him saying that, it's like, yeah, that's a good way to look at it. But I could see that's why, in my opinion, those were the great songs, is I loved singing them so much, so it was personal to me. So anyways, I did that show, and like that semester, my dad got offered a job teaching. He was finishing his doctorate, and he got offered a job in Riverside, California, to be a voice teacher. And I had just finished my junior year. I'm starting to believe in myself now, and thinking, do I want to just teach like orchestra and choir,
So what that move, was it jarring to you?
Well, I didn't have to. I was an adult, so my parents were going to move. And my sister was planning to stay, and she did, because she chose horses, even though she sings too and all that. That was like the
And you're
thing
like,
she
yes,
really wanted.
go into horses. I'm going to go into
Well, that's not what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Actually, at one point, I wanted to like move to California anyways, but I was just going to like start a DJ business and live on the beach in a shack.
surf
Nice.
and just
Yeah,
Love that.
that was my plan. That was my plan. And sure enough, I was like, well, California, this would be my way out there. And so at first I wasn't going to do it, because I was like, my whole life is here. But then I was like, what do I have here? Like this is an opportunity for me to expand and explore like what my potential is, And so, and I remember going, before we'd moved, I have a cousin in Amarillo, Texas, and she's a talent agent, and they were doing this expo where these, agents from Hollywood and New York all come and they get to see you. And anyways, I did that, and, got a lot of exposure. I won Best Adult Singer and, Best Adult Actor for a 2-person scene. So it was like, again, validation, stuff that I'm very green at, but there's potential there, right? So and when I told them I was moving to California, all the Hollywood agents were like, interested in talking to me and stuff. But sure enough, living in Riverside was far from LA. I was like, I want to finish my degree. I was getting free tuition where my dad was teaching at Cal Baptist University. So I was like, I think I'll put that on hold. Let me finish this. But I started auditioning for like local theaters as well, and getting my foot in the door there. So I started out doing, like most people do, started out like doing more community theater stuff, and then started making a name for myself, getting more experience, because I hadn't acted, like I needed a lot to learn. And at one point, like I've only auditioned for one Broadway show ever, and it was like when I was 22, and it was the Book of Mormon, and I got like callbacks for Elder Price, and I remember being filmed in San Diego and LA, and I remember one of the questions they asked me was like, at the last callback that I was at was like, what's your tap experience? And I'm like, I don't tap. So
that was
sure enough, didn't hear back from that. And then I went and saw it, I went and saw it, and Elder Price taps for 2 seconds. It's not like it's this big.
So you could have straight up been like,
and like learned how to do a time, and now I can tap dance,
You literally did a time step during your mic check.
Yeah, so like so it's just funny, but like if I really wanted to have pursued Broadway or something like that, I would have kept doing it a long time ago.
Right.
I really love living in California. I love the community I've built up, and I've made a name for myself in a sense out there. I get regular work. I'm a resident musical director of a theater.
And your reputation even has spread to obviously.
Here I am. Here I am in Arizona.
So yeah, but California was your place though. Right?
Yes, and it still is. And COVID obviously happened, and I had to reevaluate. For nearly 2 years, what am I doing with my life? And luckily I'd gotten my teaching credential. I went to Cal State Long Beach as kind of a plan B, just in case, I wanted to make more money.
That's why you have a plan B, kids.
And so luckily when COVID happened and all the theaters shut down, I had a
fallback.
Yeah, I guess so. But I wouldn't really look at it now because I really do love teaching. I love my students.
You've combined both of the things.
Yeah, I'm doing both full time. Yeah. So
and then you're also teaching kids how to perform.
Yeah, it's relevant real world experience. I consider when I had to take off a week of work this week to come do tech out here to learn the show and get put in and stuff. I consider it like professional development. But really, it's
what would you say is the most challenging thing about being a guest artist coming into a show?
That's hard. That's hard to think about because now this is like my third time here, so I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable and have a process coming in. Probably like cramming everything all in all at once. Although I feel like I'm good at it. Like and that's been something I've been good at my whole life. I've always been a procrastinator, and for the school, I'd wait till the last second.
You thrive at the last minute.
I'd memorize stuff. That's how I've learned languages and stuff too. I'd always be good at learning vocabulary and
last minute.
So just. I think that's probably the most challenging part, but it becomes really easy, especially, in this environment. I'll give the whole community at Grace Arts Live a shout out. Like everybody makes it really easy to jump into. Everybody's very supportive and kind and welcoming and patient, and I try to do the same back, unless it's Ricky, but
we've had a rough week together, but we've come a long way.
Right.
Well, and then Maura's coming back to play Anastasia, so it's almost like we've had two guest artists coming out,
right?
But because she's performed a lot out here, so she's been great to work with too. It's been nice. Actually, having her back is a reminder of how far I've fallen.
Wow.
I'm like, oh man, I am not as good as I used to be.
Well, this is the first time I've worked with you, and I think I've told you, but your reputation precedes you. So everybody in a good way. Okay. Everybody, I've heard nothing but good stuff, and it's been really really fun and good working with you.
Thank you. And before
I've actually enjoyed it.
Before I started working with you, my dad worked with you in your first show here, Joseph. He played your dad, and my dad raved about you. Yeah. Like he was about ready to disown me and adopt you. So I got to meet this guy. And so for me, it's really cool because he's been passed away now, and so it's cool to do a show with you. It's kind of it holds a special place in my heart. Just being on stage with you, like it's just a weird connection for me. So. But I'm very happy to be up there with you, and everything my dad said appears to be true so far. That you're a really good actor and you're professional. You stay in the moment. It's easy to get into the moment with you up there. So
that's important too. Yeah, no, your dad. He was he was definitely an ornery guy for sure, but he was also a super sweet guy. I mean that sincerely. Yeah, I remember like the first time, because like I literally got there and they plugged me in. We were already on stage. We weren't even at the dance studio, right? So everybody's already in costume and stuff, and luckily I'd done the role, so I
didn't you just walk in basically to the grovel song?
I think I remember everybody was on stage, and I just remember the very first. I hadn't even met your dad. And right away, like I remember that first scene where Jacob comes back and realizes Joseph is still alive, and he had real tears.
Oh, he did, every night.
And I was like, okay, this is a genuine person, like you can't just fabricate that stuff. I mean, I guess you can, but I felt a genuine connection with him and him, like I don't know if that was necessarily because of me, but I think he was that connected with the character and their relationship with his son. And honestly, I feel like that's probably a testament to his love for you. Because his own, like, how can a father, like have a son and like the thought of like losing them and them being away forever and then realizing they've actually been around this whole time, it's crazy because it's like, I have kind of like a rough patch with my dad my whole life, but seeing that genuineness come through when I never even had a conversation really with him, or like knew who he was, that just told me right then and there, I was like, this man is special. So I think, I think he can only pull those emotions up from his own experience. And that, like I said, that's a testament to his love for you. You were his son. And I think he was thinking of you and he was interacting with me.
Wow.
So,
Thank you. Wow. Well, I know that for him, he always feeds off the actors he works off of too, because he does bring that energy, but he also feeds off of who he's working with.
Oh yeah.
And from what I've experienced this week working with you, I can sense what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's nice to work with somebody who's like, okay, well, this is how we're doing it. And then you're like, okay. And then that's just how we do it every time. There's no like, oh, I forgot. There's no like, we just dial it in real quick. So, and my dad was always that type, be like, this is how I'm doing it. And but yeah, he let his emotions kind of take the wheel of the car of his performance, but he was still in control. Yeah. So I am truly honored to be on stage with you and his memory and stuff. So
well, thank you.
Love to work together.
Okay, so thinking of, I feel like you have done so many shows. Is there a role that stands out that was either vocally challenging or physically challenging or emotionally challenging?
We're gonna go with all three.
Or all three.
Break it down.
3 different shows. Break it down.
What's the first one you want to hear?
I want to hear your vocally challenging show.
Probably Rent.
Oh, who did you play in Rent?
Roger.
Oh,
I've played it twice.
Okay.
That same role.
The same role, yes, and it's a very, very different style of singing from like Billy Bigelow and Carousel.
Yeah.
Yes.
The first time, I would say it was a breeze for me. I had to work hard, but again, testament to my vocal training.
Right.
Like so getting through that the first time was like a huge confidence boost. Right. Second time, I'm now a full-time teacher, teaching singing all day.
right.
Also running my business, teaching private students and singing.
Right.
and then I music directed that show too.
Oh my gosh.
So my like, it's amazing that I made it as much as I did, but I will say this, and I will humiliate myself. At the very last show of that opening weekend, I remember getting to One Song Glory, and ego, tenor, I always opted up. And I did it every single time. And then that last one, I should have just listened to my body say, it's not happening today. And that was the day all of my people were there too.
Oh, of course.
Of course. I even had a friend fly in from Europe, and he was watching me. And One Song Glory is toward the beginning of the show.
Yeah, so, and that's one of like the big solo numbers.
I'll just say it if you can guess, it did not go super great. And you know what? That had never happened to me before.
Wow.
I had never really had a voice crack on stage, so I thought I was kind of Superman up to that point.
Sure.
And that was really humbling. Like, okay, I need to really pay attention to how much I use my voice, during the day leading up to a show. It's not like it's just, it's a muscle, so you have to let it rest. So, that was the first time. So I would say definitely that's a vocally challenging show. Now, the rest of the show, he sings the whole time, it's a rock opera. I got through it. I was so aware after that happened. I was
on
like,
alert.
You're like, maybe I need to dial it back a
it's like
little.
I could have let that just throw off the rest of my show.
Yeah,
the same thing happened to me when I did Miss Saigon, which was another challenging show, challenging role.
Who did you play in that?
I played Chris.
I was like, he was probably Chris.
We had the helicopter and everything.
Oh my
It was awesome.
I love
but I not this had nothing to do with like the vocals, but I remember talking about getting thrown off the last day. I feel like it's always the Sunday show after Tech Week. You're exhausted. Yeah, right.
Right.
You're always exhausted. And anyways, I was ready to go. I'd already done the show 3 times at that point. After, not including all the rehearsals at Tech Week, but I remember somebody put like a chair in my pathway on my opening line that had not ever happened. And I just remember that's where my thought went to. I was like, that's not usually there.
Oh no.
And I remember we get to that first thing. I had no idea what I was supposed to say. And again, this Miss Saigon is all sung, just like Rent. So you can't really BS it. You have to just do it right on that right timing. And I just remember I went, and but there's a word, I think I say like the B word in it. I can't remember what the line is, but and that's the only word I could get out.
Oh my God.
That's this full, it's a 1,700 seat house, not a small house. Like, it's a full house in here. It's this epic musical, Miss Saigon. We had the helicopter and everything. And that's their introduction to me as the character. So I'm like thinking, oh my gosh. And that, again, that could have like just messed up the rest of my show. But you know what? After that, I felt like that was my best performance the rest of the weekend, because I said, that happened, keep going. Yeah. That was kind of a crazy experience. So that had never happened to me before either.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
Knock on wood, because we have a show tonight.
Right. So that was vocally.
So actually, that prompts another question that I just thought of. I'm sorry, but I have to ask this. So, because it's something that has come to my attention personally for the last year of performing, and that's during Hell Week. So during Tech Week, you hold back, right? Like, you don't. Do you sing full out, or do you hold back? And those
I think
rehearsals?
Again, I think it depends. I try to pay attention to my body on that moment.
Okay, so you just it's really in the moment.
If it's
how you
there, feel. I want to practice like I perform.
So you don't take risks at all. If you're like, oh, I'm going to save it.
No. If I know, I'm like, I'm going to save it for the audience for sure.
Right.
But I'm not like, oh, I'm going to mark it every night, and then opening night, I'm finally going to do it. No, I want to rehearse it how I'm going to do it, just to see, okay, is this in my voice? Like,
so it's a case by case
paying
basis.
attention to how much breath I need to use, beforehand and stuff. Like, so I pay attention to those little details, and but if I am vocally exhausted that day, then yes, I'm going to mark, because I need to save it.
And I think a lot of people, especially people that have played bit parts, that suddenly they get the chance to do a big role, and sometimes I feel like, I have something to prove. I have to sing out every single rehearsal to prove.
No, not necessarily.
Well,
you have to be careful.
I've suffered because of that. I
literally
yourself. Have lost my voice because I'm like, I'm going to do that, and then bam.
I think because it's not my first rodeo, it's like I know myself enough at that point that I'm like, okay, I know how much I can give. But
I like that because I guess I was asking it as like a black or white answer. Do you hold back or do you sing full out? But it's more listening to yourself.
Yeah, sometimes yes, but in general, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I think knowing your body and your voice enough to know this. I need to just
like if I had known what I know now that week of Rent after teaching all day and all that stuff, I definitely would have marked during and saved it for the shows. Sure. But I was like, at that point, I was like, I'm invincible. I can do anything. I can
do no wrong.
I've never cracked a note in a show or
Jordan
even in
Killion.
rehearsal. So kind of. Again, like as soon as you get an ego, you're going to be humbled pretty soon. So it's like, dude, just chill out.
Yeah, for real.
Okay, so your most physically demanding role.
Physically, in what sense? Like just like I'm exhausted.
Like that exhausted you, sore muscles, and you're like, my body can't take much more of that.
Oh, that's a good question. Like if it's talking about dancing or whatever, Hairspray was huge when I played Link Larkin. That one was, you had to be in top shape because you're dancing the whole time on top of singing and like the whole thing.
Yeah, and we know how difficult
doing all those
very difficult. Yeah,
dancing and singing at the same time. Face on.
Walking.
I have to think about some of those though. And like, I also have to think of what shows I've done.
Right.
Now,
we usually have a list for people. But
talking about going back to vocals though, in another sense, Tony and West Side Story, that was a challenge in another sense. Like as a classical tenor, I mean, I had to sing the B flat every time too, and so that one was another difficult role that was challenging.
But you're classically trained, from what I understand.
Yes,
but doing Roger and Rent, that's such a different beast.
Yeah, well, even playing Dimitri now,
and this is your first time playing Dimitri.
Like the times I've gotten to use my classical voice, I was more using that style in Carousel, or when I
was blown away by soliloquy. I was blown away.
It's my all-time favorite male solo, and I just sat there in awe. I was like, oh my god, I could listen to Jordan sing this all.
And I don't usually get oh my gosh, that was incredible. But toward the end of that song, I'm like.
Well, see, it is fun to sing, but I love the character part more of singing that song.
Yeah.
Well, and you also realize that for that particular song, you're representing a lot of different people. Like a lot of people go through that. Like, I'm about to have a kid, and these are so there's so much relatability to that from the audience. So to sing something that people are talking about or thinking about,
and that's the first time he starts to soften too. So you see a little bit of vulnerability. Yeah, I see a little bit of vulnerability. He's otherwise up to that point, he's just like this, alpha male. He's broken. But then Oklahoma too, I got to play Curly in Oklahoma. Oh, speaking of going back,
you told me that was your first show that you ever did, and you lived in Oklahoma.
Well, no, that was my first solo I sang at my kindergarten graduation. I was 5 in my little cowboy hat and boots
in Oklahoma.
And I actually wrote my capstone paper at OU on that musical. So, but I had never done it up until this last spring.
The first time you ever did the whole show was this last spring?
Yep.
Wow.
But yeah, and my sister and I, we'd always ride our horses out in the field singing what a beautiful morning. And
of course. You were born for it, literally.
So that felt like a full circle moment.
Totally.
I love a good full circle moment.
But talking about demanding stuff again, another one that really comes to mind. One, I think also because my best friend, he'd passed away from cancer a few years ago, and 3 weeks after that, somebody reached out to me about playing Jesus in Godspell. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Lead role. I like the songs. I get the script. The whole script is Jesus talking. And it's like in the King James English too. So it's all these, I think it was 14 monologues I counted on top of all the songs he sings. He's basically the whole show, with the disciples kind of little smattering of lines here and there. But so learning that in 3 weeks, memorizing all that while grieving my friend and all that. And that was demanding. So that I that's probably one role I'll never play again, just because I don't want to put myself through memorizing that.
Right.
But I mean, I had to just have so much focus. Even during intermission, I wouldn't talk to anybody. I would just stay focused, And I remember this is kind of a side note, but from that show, something that stands out. I remember the very first time, when we had the Last Supper, that whole scene, and it's basically Jesus saying goodbye to each of his disciples, and I didn't really get to say goodbye to my best friend. And I remember that first rehearsal that we did it. We never replicated it since then, but at least not to the point that it was that first time, And I remember just giving each of the disciples hugs, basically knowing I was about to die, right? And I just broke. And I mean, the sincerity in that moment, that was a huge learning moment for me, because I was like, oh, this is acting. This isn't robots, and yes, we're pretending, but the amount of empathy I felt, because I go for that character because of what I was going through in exact moment, you know, I needed that. It was therapeutic for me, you know, and that same summer I did Rent playing Roger too. So,
Oh, wow.
So a lot of grieving and
Yeah.
stuff, but those shows really helped me grow as an actor and learning like, oh, you know what, like there's more to acting than just memorizing the lines and doing the blocking and the script.
Well, you and I have had we had a conversation in the trailer this week about just acting like that, and not necessarily method acting, but using your real life experience.
Yeah.
You know what? After when my dad passed away, it was right after the season had ended on Grace Starts Live, and all I could think in the couple months following was, I wish I had a role to get lost in and express, because I didn't know how to express that grief. And I was thinking, gosh, I wish I was doing a show right now that I could just pour all myself into. So I'm glad you got that opportunity to kind of learn that and express yourself, you know.
That changed me, you know. I mean, anytime you go through that kind of trauma, though, that changes you as a person. But, you know, like you can't teach that. That's just your own.
Right. If you've never gone
truth.
through that, you don't.
Yeah, that's why when people are like acting classes, and I agree. You know, acting classes.
They give you
help
the tools. Because I've had the classes
Right.
before that, but actually putting it into practice with the real life experiences like that changed me and evolved the way I approach my characters, depending on what the character is, you know, like if I'm playing Gaston, then I'm not probably going to be
Right.
you know, going to that much
Well,
depth,
apparently I have a reputation of being such a jerk or whatever. So
well, that's what I'm thinking. You know, I've played Gaston, you know, Billy Bigelow, who's like abusing women, and Dimitri, who's like a swindler,
different, right?
You know,
Different, right? So like,
I'm like, is there a
But
pattern
you're like,
here?
wait a minute.
yeah, like I'm playing Vlad right now, and Vlad's just a happy-go-lucky kind of like optimistic guy. So it's easier to be cheerful and happy-go-lucky backstage too. But when you're trying to get prepared for a scene like Billy Bigelow, you might come off as a little bit of a jerk.
Although Gaston's probably one of my favorite characters I've gotten to play, because one, he's just such a ham, and I feel like that's kind of how I am in real life, you know. And like you don't take it so serious.
There's a goofiness to it.
Yeah, you don't have to go so deep with that, you know. One, it made me work out a lot more, you know, too. So I was like in the best shape of my life doing that show.
Oh, I felt the same way about Cass. Yeah.
And then at the same time, like I remember the choreographer made me had me do my gymnastics at the end of Gaston too. Oh. So I was like. And at first I was like, what? Like, Gaston never does backflips. And she's like, well, he is now. And I was like, Gaston would do backflips.
Did
the director know that you could do backflips?
Well, I had just posted a video the week before.
There you go.
I'm a teacher at a high school, and at a football game, there was this video of me competing of doing back handsprings against one of the cheerleaders. And so I did, I don't know, like 7 in a row or something. And so everybody was talking. A lot of people didn't know I could do gymnastics, but that was
like,
one of my
Gaston could do
sports,
one if Jordan could do 7.
And so she made me she made me do 3. We met halfway in the middle.
Okay, fair enough.
So anyways, that getting to do stuff like that is just more fun. But I don't know, you need a little balance in life. Sometimes it's good to do fun stuff, but I do love playing stuff that has a lot of depth too, because it helps you explore yourself as well.
Yeah,
and your own experiences.
And I mean, as far as just performing in general, I think a lot of us use it as a form of therapy.
Oh, totally. I always say theater therapy.
All of us do.
100%.
Totally.
So sometimes when I'm struggling the most in life, I'm like, oh, I wish I was doing a very dramatic role right now.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I love going to see theater as much as I love doing it.
Yes.
You know, just
you know what? Speaking of seeing theater, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm talking about the show we're doing right now, Anastasia. There's the scene where Anya does her first song, and you and I just get to sit there and watch it.
Yeah.
And we get to watch Maura get lost in her song. And by the end of it, her eyes are like red and just like she's crying. Yeah. And I love just being on stage with her, and it allows you to kind of channel that energy too.
Sure.
And I think we're all 3 of us are in the moment, which brings the audience into the moment.
Yeah.
So like that's seeing a show, but it's also being a
show. Totes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think even last night, I kind of got choked up at the end of Everything to Win. That hadn't happened all week, and I wasn't planning on that. It was just all of a sudden, for some reason, that
First time in front of an audience?
I just felt a little bit more overwhelmed with emotions in that, and felt really connected. Because Dimitri, it's not that it wouldn't make sense for Dimitri to be feeling that much kind of, do I say despair? Like finally the one good thing that's come into his life. He's like raised himself, on the streets. He's lived a life of crime, and he's even like, in a way betrayed this girl that he's fallen in love with.
It's that teetering moment almost.
Yeah, and he's realized, oh my God, like this person actually means a lot to me, And I don't think he's ever really expressed that to anybody either. And so to let that out, and the whole thing is an aside anyways. Like it's all internalized, and the audience just gets let in on his thoughts. And I was like, I kind of broke me a little bit last night, and really feeling what Dimitri would have been genuinely feeling.
It's incredible when that
can I replicate that tonight? We'll see.
We're going to find out tonight.
But
it's weird how when you get an audience, like the ballet last night got me.
Yeah.
I was getting teary-eyed at the end of the ballet. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I was just thinking about my next lyric, so I wouldn't
I just have to. I just get to sit there and watch the whole thing.
Yeah, you get to chill.
And so I was getting lost in the performance, and I almost cried at the end. I'm like, oh my gosh.
No, they are so. I even when I did Carousel, and I got to watch it during the ballet, because literally I'm just watching my daughter,
and it's the same. It's the same dancer.
Yeah, I know. She's so talented, but like all those kids are so talented. I'm like, man, it's such a testament to the
Arizona Coast Performing Arts.
Yes.
Shout outs to
out
the teachers there.
Snaps.
The training they're getting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have any dream roles that you've yet to play, but it's like if that show got offered to you, you would jump at the chance?
Man, I feel really fortunate for the amount of roles I've gotten to play at this point. I would say, I think it'd be really sick to play the Phantom. Will I ever have that opportunity? I don't know. But I remember the first...
Hopefully Grace will listen to this and be like, we're doing Phantom now.
Well, I don't even know if the rights are even released. Right. It's still a thing. Even though it's not on Broadway, I think they just announced it.
Oh, yeah, they
just announced the tour of it.
And it's the London version.
Okay, a couple more years, maybe.
But
we'll contact you.
that do you remember when the movie came out? I think it was 2004, and I was 14. So my voice had just changed. And
you're like, I could do this.
Well, and I remember I really fell in love with Raoul's part.
Yes.
And that's so again, getting to sing All I Ask of You in that first performance was like huge for me, because I had been singing that for a long time, and I just really felt like that was in the sweet spot of my voice. But the more that I've lived, I'm like, okay, Raoul, you're chilling. Like the Phantom would be really.
That's
really
more
sick.
me now.
But I grew up with that, so I think that's kind of a nostalgia thing. Now looking back, I'm like, okay, the movie is not as great as the stage show, but it planted a seed, in my mind. Like, oh, I love singing this kind of music, So that's maybe one. I was thinking like recently. I feel like. Sky Masterson and Guys and Dolls would be really fun to play.
I played Nathan Detroit.
Yeah,
I did. It was. So
I could see you in that role. I feel like that would
so
be good.
Grace, if you're ready to do Guys
Harold
and Dolls.
Hill and Music Man.
I want to be Harold Hill and Music Man too. That's a great role.
I watched that. That was the first show I saw on Broadway coming out of COVID, and I think I cried like 8 times watching it. My favorite moment in that show is when Winthrop starts singing about the Wells Fargo wagon.
Really?
Well, think about it. He lost his dad, and he's not talking to anybody. He has his lisp, and thinking about his self-image, doesn't have anybody to connect with. He's like kind of gone into his shell.
There's a wall there.
And even though Harold Hill is a complete douchebag and he's like lying to everybody,
right?
The spirit he brings to that town that finally releases in Winthrop, and he starts singing, and the excitement that he has for his cornet coming. It actually almost makes me tear up thinking about it. Like this little kid, finally has some joy in his
I think
life.
that's you reflecting on the word believe on that desk.
Maybe. Maybe, you know, and it's funny because I was a little redheaded kid, and I probably could have played Winthrop when I was a child. I had the little bowl cut, you know. I remember my mom asked me if I wanted to audition for Music Man, and I told her no. I wasn't interested when I was a kid, but and that's why Marion tears out the page in the book, because even though she knows he's full of crap, what the gift he gave to her brother by bringing out, confidence in himself and joy that he hadn't had before.
Jeez,
it's heartbreaking. Like and so that's why she forgives him, even though he betrayed their trust. You know,
this seems to be a theme with you for me this week. Is you bringing revelations to characters that I never thought about before.
Yeah,
I mean, Harold Hill. I never thought about Winthrop like that. That's incredible.
No, that literally, I was bawling when that moment happened.
And then with Dimitri, seeing you play Dimitri this week has been like, wow, I've never thought about certain aspects of that, and that internal monologue and things you were thinking like that. So
I will tell, going back to physically demanding.
The question.
I'll say this past spring, it's not necessarily just one role, but I did, on top of teaching full time and working towards a choir concert at my school, I worked on 7 different productions from January to May. So I went from doing, and the 4 shows that I was in, I was playing the lead in, right? So it's like not tooting my own horn, but he
doesn't accept anything less.
That's not true.
You'll never find him in the ensemble.
That's not true. It's not often, but it happens. Okay. But I went from doing Billy Bigelow, which is a huge part, right? And just singing soliloquy is
it's draining. It's draining emotionally and just energy wise.
Yes. And then I went right into doing music directing, Sound of Music, and
which is a beast.
And then I played Danny in Grease. So that's a lot of dancing to, the choreography probably was like the most demanding on that sense. Cause I can memorize lines and songs quick. I mean, you grow up with Grease, so it's like, you already know the songs, right? But so I did that. And then, and it was three tech weeks in a row, actually. I went right after Grease happened. I went right into Tarzan, played Tarzan. And then from there went right into Oklahoma. So I did 3 tech weeks in a row playing the lead.
That's crazy.
Literally 3 weeks in a row, right? So it was like the 3rd weekend of April, then the 4th weekend of April, then the 1st weekend in May. I was opening new shows. So that was kind of crazy. And then I had music directed Hello Dolly at my school, and In the Heights was right after that. Did I leave any out? No, that was 7. So so that was the most physically demanding for me, just doing all of that. And I told myself never again. Yeah. I'm going right into one.
Wait a minute. You told me.
That's just 2 though, and I'm music directing the other one, so that I'm okay. And I've already pretty much done the bulk of the work.
Right.
They already know the music. I'm just coming in to make sure everything's in order. So. And in the spring, I'm supposed to do Frozen at my theater. So, and I think that's probably going to be the only role I do in the spring. So I'm just really trying to like cut it back a little bit this year. So
that balance you were talking about.
Yeah, you got to have balance, man. Like otherwise, it's great, but like you're exhausted, and so can you really enjoy it fully? I don't know. Like I felt like I was trying to make up for lost time from the COVID years. That's why I was doing. I was like, I didn't want to turn down these roles, and plus, I'm 34 now. How much longer am I going to be able to play these roles? So I wanted to take advantage of the opportunities.
Right. You musically direct, but you also are on stage. Like, do you have a preference of? Or do you just love doing both?
I love both.
Yeah.
Again, going back to the balance thing. Yeah. It's definitely rewarding getting to do, and a lot of times I get to do both.
Right.
Is it tough? So
when I did Grease, I was in both. It was Miss Saigon, Beauty and the Beast. What else? School of Rock. I was featured ensemble.
Hey.
Yeah.
Princess track.
Hey.
So sing one song, start off the show, and then you're not on till like the end, basically. So
is there one that you musically directed that you like? It stands out more than the others.
Well, some of the ones like from the early on, I remember doing Jekyll and Hyde, and like the first In the Heights production that I MD'd. I was just really proud of those shows, mostly because I think a lot of musical directors, not everyone obviously, but a lot of musical directors overlook how important the ensemble is. And that is
Carmen.
That's why I said a lot of, because I was gonna give her credit. I was gonna give her credit because I've noticed she really does pay attention to harmonies, and because I think that really makes or breaks a professional level show if the ensemble sounds amazing, and so I'm like, leads, you do your stuff, learn your stuff. I'm trusting you to learn your stuff. And then I'll give you feedback when I hear it. But when we're doing music rehearsals, I want these harmonies learned and solid and
it's the backbone,
tight. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking like I was just really proud of like those casts and those productions. And I've been proud of like pretty much all of the productions I've worked on overall, but those stand out in my mind because those are some of my earlier ones, and that really, again, the epiphany of like, wow, this really does make or break a show.
It's important.
It sets it apart. But
you could see Carmen in the back whenever the harmonies are there. You could see Carmen's big smile even from the stage.
Absolutely.
She's happy right now.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
But I love getting to act too, because I like connecting with the characters, so like Little Mermaid doesn't count because that one is about as white bread as you can get, like Prince Eric's songs are the only thing that make up for playing that part. But especially when they're going to make you dye your hair black, so with the pasty skin that I have and having to go to work the next day when you can't hide under the lights and the makeup.
Nice. I thought about that with people that get like extensions for, like I saw somebody play Jesus Christ Superstar, and got extensions for the role, and then I'm like, but you're gonna work
extra
tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I think it's nice, like, too, that your students get to see you both on stage and the behind the scenes. They're seeing both sides of you. It's almost like putting your money where your mouth is.
Yes, they're like, hey, man, you can't say anything because here I am doing it. And
I pinch myself that I get to do this and the opportunities I've had, for sure. It's been incredible, for sure. Never would have dreamed that I'd be pursuing a career in musical theater.
Well, and you reached the ultimate dream by being on our podcast.
Here I am.
Really?
I've made it.
You're peaking right now.
True.
This moment.
It doesn't get much better. Well, we ask this of all our guests for the most part, but what are you listening to? What do you put on in your car?
People ask me that all the time. And do you want to know the real answer?
I do.
Is most of the time, if I'm not listening to stuff I'm working on in that moment, I'm not listening to music.
Oh, okay.
Because it's constant in my life. So what? A little bit of silence with just my thoughts, and and before, like, up until the last couple of years, like my grandmothers have passed, in the like, one just passed a couple months ago, and my other one passed December of 2022. So a lot of that time, I would just call them. Living in Southern California, commutes to work are like an hour and a half.
Yeah, right.
So you have a lot of free time. And so I would spend most of the time calling them. I was very close with both of them. So not having them now is hard, but I'm grateful that I had all those times and those memories with them, because they're from Missouri. So I never lived there. I only ever saw them once or twice a year anyways. So our phone calls was our time together. Right. So that's up until lately, the last couple, I've almost felt like, I have that urge to want to call my memes.
Oh,
it was Grams and Memes. Everybody called them Grandma and Meemaw, but I had my pet names for them.
Course.
So Grams and Memes. Hey, what's up, Grams? What's up, Memes? But they're, they're gone now. But so now it's like, I guess I haven't had a lot of time because I've been working on different projects. So I most of the time what I'm listening to is stuff I'm working on.
I mean,
it's not often there's a lull.
Right.
So fortunately, so knock on wood. So at some point people are going to stop calling me maybe, but
I doubt it.
So I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it while I have it. But
Okay, we always ask everyone. A title of our show is The Missed Cue. Have you ever missed a cue?
Oh, God. This year.
Oh, well.
It was in Greece. And again, I was a musical director and playing Danny.
And
And having been doing a million other things up to that point, I'd say I was a little under rehearsed for that show.
Okay, yeah.
I still pretty much knew my stuff, but there was and I'd never done it in rehearsal, but for some reason on opening night, well, okay, there's a story too.
Oh, he's setting down his drink. This is real.
Okay.
So opening night, I guess I just of course you have the rush and stuff, and we had just finished Summer Nights, which is like the first scene and song that Danny's in anyways. Yes. And as soon as we get off, we have like this huge rush of like the applause, and it's this exciting, getting to do Grease, the nostalgia of it, and how fun it is. And I really had to pee.
It's always the bathroom.
And here's the thing: the next scene that I was supposed to be in really doesn't move the plot forward, so it's really forgettable anyways. But anyway, so I was just like, and I knew it in the middle of Summer Nights. I was like, I have to pee, but okay, I'm going to keep going. I'm in this. I'll pee right as soon as we're done. So I had that in my head that as soon as this song's over, I'm going to go relieve myself. And I knew I didn't have enough time to even get back to the bathroom. So we have individual dressing rooms in the California Theater. I'm not going to tell people which one if anybody listens to this, but I'm in there and I take a leak in the sink. I
didn't know if you were going to share that detail.
To save time, okay?
Okay.
But we have like the
hey, as men, we all do it. Men all do it. I don't care who you are.
We have the intercom on, and as I'm peeing
in the sink,
I hear, I'm like, those lines sound familiar.
Oh,
and I'm almost wondering, is my mic on right now? As soon as I realize, and I think I said a 4-letter word, not even thinking that my mic might be on because I'm supposed to be on stage. I don't think it was. Nobody told me that. So maybe they realized that
you weren't there.
I wasn't there, so they turned me down. But so I'm like, so I'm like, get back out there, but I'm like, how am I going to like just walk into the middle of the scene? They're already kind of covering my part. So again, it doesn't move the plot forward. So people knew my lines enough, and they were kind of small, insignificant lines. Thank God. It's the scene going into those magic changes, talking about the guitar and all that stuff, the duty singing, and all that. And so I'm like, I'm just not even going to go on. I'm going to wait till the song starts and just walk on. And no, I don't think anybody who's never seen the show other than my castmates would have ever even noticed that I wasn't on stage. So, anyways, well,
it's one of those moments, and we've asked other guests before. In those moments, do you go on late or not at all?
Right.
And it always comes down to, does it move the plot forward?
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah.
One other time. This was a long time ago. It was the first time I did Legally Blonde. I was playing Warner. The stage manager did not tell us places. But this was a learning experience for me. I hadn't changed yet. So I thought, I'm over here talking to everybody, like, just chatting away, thinking I have all this time. And then they said, sorry, they hadn't said 5 to places or anything. They said places. I'm like, oh my God. So, and I had a tie on and everything, we're law school. So, and I just remember I have like one little line, like where I say, did she or something? And luckily, the guy playing, the top of the second act. Okay, and luckily the guy playing Emmett knew I wasn't there. He knew what my line was. So and it didn't really matter if Warner said it.
That's during a song.
It's during a song. So he filled it in, and I just walked on into the next part of that scene. It's the jump rope scene.
It's a very Warner move anyway.
Yeah. Warner.
Someone else will cover for me.
I was like, why didn't you call 5 to places or whatever? But I was like, I should have been dressed. So live and learn,
Okay. Last one. If you could only listen to one cast album of a show for the rest of your life.
Oh, God.
Only one, but you can listen to it as much as you want. What would it be and why?
Oh my gosh.
Only one.
I have to think about that. Oh, man.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
No one likes this question.
I've been on a Sweeney Todd kick lately, but I don't know if I could say that for the rest of my life. But I've really gotten into that. I saw them on Broadway with Josh Groban, and it was so good. It was like one of the best.
And
shows
Annalee Ashford played.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, I saw her and You Can't Take It With You.
Annalee Ashford. But I don't know what the heck. Do I be like typical and say Wicked?
Nobody has said Wicked yet.
I'm kind of joking.
But kind of not.
Well, the safe answer for some people is something that basically has different styles of music throughout. Like
What, Joseph? That's
well,
different
somebody
styles.
said. I think somebody.
all the
okay,
styles.
actually, that is all the styles. I just like the mega mix on repeat.
Right?
Love.
Playing it.
Yes.
No, somebody said, "Oh, I like Mamma Mia," and it's like, "Oh, so
Well, so you
you're
like
an ABBA
ABBA.
fan."
I like ABBA, but I don't like them that
Right? Not for the rest of
Not
your
for the rest of your
life.
life.
for the rest of my life. I mean, it would have to be something nostalgic.
Classical for you.
I mean, it could be like Oklahoma or Music Man, stuff that I grew up with.
Sure.
It could be Phantom of the Opera, like that. That's stuff that again, like that goes way back.
Right.
So if I had to, it would. I would probably be the original film Oklahoma. It's just that's my childhood.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of me and my story.
that's the deepest root.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
have.
and it's funny. Like another story going back to that I just remembered from doing Oklahoma this past spring. The guy playing Will Parker told me that there was this girl who was like the friend of his sister, I guess, that came to watch the show, and she's kind of like a I don't like that or whatever. Apparently, he told the table or told him she told him afterwards that the guy playing Curly had a terrible Oklahoma accent.
Oh my god.
And he's like, well, that's funny because he's from Oklahoma. So if anything,
If anything, you have a bad ear.
he has the exact accent.
Right.
Yeah.
It just might not be
Everybody
the
else has
Hollywood
been
hyped
wrong.
up accent that you're
Right.
used to.
Yeah,
So
it's like-
what Hugh Jackman brought.
It's
to-
funny. This girl from California, she knows Oklahoma accents apparently.
Oh,
but
wow, yeah.
But anyways, I just think that's funny.
I feel
But
like you haven't made it until you've been criticized for your accent.
I don't know. I guess.
I had somebody from New York rip me a new one
Yeah.
for not doing a proper New York accent for shows.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. If it's not Oklahoma, Newsies, hands down. Hands down.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you
that
said
was
that you've never played in that show. And that's a dream role for you.
As soon as Joseph here closed, I was supposed to play Jack Kelly in Newsies, and we were 2 weeks out. And
Here?
no, at the California Theater where I music direct. So I wasn't music directing at the time. I was just playing Jack Kelly, and 2 weeks away from opening, the world shut down.
Oh no.
So I never got to play it. But I resonated so much with that character and his arc and his journey and his struggle. Right. I just wanted to play it so bad. I just remember singing Santa Fe and just like almost crying every time. Like, cause I remember like, it was after my best friend passed away. I was living in Europe at the time, and my parents had left California, and I came back, and I was not getting along with my parents at all. It was, don't have to get into that. But I remember like driving back out to California. It was like that. It was like that was my Santa Fe.
Yeah.
Trying to get away from the mess and start my new life, start fresh, and so like. That was so heartbreaking to not get to do that part. So
Wow.
I don't know if I'm too old to play him now, but
I don't think you are.
No.
Just hit the gym.
Yeah. And then plus, Newsies with all the acrobatics, being a gymnast too. Like that would be fun.
Jack Kelly doesn't have to do all the
You know what? We said Gaston doesn't do backflips, and then
well, just don't come in and be like, I've done 7 backflips in a row.
So,
oh man, Jordan, thank you so much for coming on here.
Yeah,
we really
for sure.
appreciate you coming on.
Yes.
I think there's some people here locally that have seen you in the past couple shows, and I think they're in for a real treat when they get to see you in this third one.
Yeah.
I am truly honored to be on that stage with you this time around.
Absolutely.
Likewise.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes,
All of
100%.
you guys, likewise. It's been a blast.
Yeah, it's been so
You
much fun.
guys are all awesome.
Well, until next time, we all know there is no excuse for a missed or late cue. We'll see you next time.